New Orleans, 1918. A city that thrived on its rich cultural tapestry, where the Mississippi River flowed with stories of old and the streets echoed with the sounds of life. Imagine a city alive with music. Jazz bands played on every corner, their melodies weaving through the air, creating a symphony of life and joy. The rhythm of the drums, the wail of the trumpets, and the soulful notes of the saxophones painted a vibrant picture of a city that never slept. Picture the soulful sounds of jazz spilling out of every doorway. Clubs and bars were filled with people swaying to the music, their spirits lifted by the infectious energy of the tunes. It was a time when music was the heartbeat of the city, bringing people together in a celebration of life. The scent of Cajun spices fills the air. Street vendors sold their wares, the aroma of gumbo and jambalaya mingling with the sweet scent of beignets. The markets were a bustling hub of activity where the flavors of the city came alive, tantalizing the senses and adding to the rich tapestry of New Orleans. But behind the vibrant facade, a darkness was about to descend. As the sun set and the city was bathed in the soft glow of gas lamps, shadows began to creep in, bringing with them an air of foreboding. The lively streets took on a more sinister tone, as if the city itself was holding its breath, waiting for something terrible to happen. In the French Quarter, with its wrought iron balconies and gaslit streets, a sinister secret lurked. The historic district, known for its charm and beauty, became a place of fear and uncertainty. The narrow alleys and hidden corners seemed to whisper of dark deeds and unseen dangers. A chill wind blew through the city, carrying with it whispers of fear and uncertainty. The once warm and inviting streets now felt cold and unwelcoming. The wind seemed to carry the voices of the past, warning of the horrors that were to come. Little did the people know, a nightmare was about to unfold. The residents of New Orleans went about their daily lives, unaware of the terror that was lurking in the shadows. Their faces, once filled with joy and laughter, now showed signs of worry and fear. They called him the Axeman, a name that would soon become synonymous with fear and death. This shadowy figure moved through the city like a ghost, unseen and unheard, until it was too late. A shadowy figure, preying on the unsuspecting, he struck without warning, leaving behind a trail of devastation and heartbreak. The people of New Orleans were gripped by a fear they had never known, as the Axeman's reign of terror began. His weapon of choice? An axe, brutal and unforgiving. This simple tool, meant for chopping wood, became a symbol of horror and death. The mere sight of an axe was enough to send shivers down the spines of the city's residents. He would shatter the peace of the night, leaving behind a trail of blood and terror. The once peaceful streets of New Orleans were now stained with the blood of the innocent as the Axeman continued his gruesome work. The people of New Orleans were about to face their darkest fears. As the city trembled under the shadow of the Axeman, the residents were forced to confront the reality of their situation. Their beloved city, once a beacon of music and joy, had become a place of fear and despair. The birth of jazz was now haunted by the shadows of terror. May 23rd, 1918. The city of New Orleans was on the cusp of a new era, yet the night held an eerie stillness, as if the air itself was holding its breath. It was supposed to be a night like any other. The streets were quiet, the city wrapped in the comforting embrace of darkness, with only the occasional flicker of a street lamp breaking the monotony. Joseph Maggio, a grocer, and his wife Catherine were asleep in their apartment above their shop. They had no reason to suspect that this night would be any different from the countless others they had spent together. The sounds of the city had long faded into the night. The gentle hum of distant conversations, the occasional bark of a dog, all had been swallowed by the silence. Suddenly a loud crash shattered the silence. The tranquility of the night was violently interrupted, sending shockwaves through the stillness. An intruder was inside their home. A shadowy figure moved with calculated intent, each step echoing with malevolence. Joseph, startled awake, rushed to protect his wife. His heart pounded in his chest as he tried to make sense of the chaos unfolding around him, but it was too late. The darkness had already claimed its victims, and the room was filled with an overwhelming sense of dread. The Axeman, wielding his weapon with chilling precision, attacked them both. His movements were swift and merciless, leaving no room for escape. Their cries for help were swallowed by the night. The walls of their home, once a sanctuary, now echoed with the sounds of their final moments. Neighbors awoke to a horrifying scene. The news spread quickly, and soon a crowd had gathered, their faces etched with shock and disbelief. The Maggios brutally murdered in their bed, their faces almost unrecognizable. The room bore the marks of a violent struggle, a testament to the terror they had faced. The Axeman had vanished into thin air. The city was left to grapple with the horror of the night, knowing that the shadow of the Axeman still loomed large, ready to strike again. The news of the Maggio murders spread like wildfire through the city. Fear, raw and palpable, gripped the hearts of the people. The Axeman became a terrifying enigma, his motives unknown, his victims seemingly chosen at random. The police, baffled, launched a full-scale investigation. Weeks turned into months. The Axeman, shrouded in darkness, continued his reign of terror. He struck again and again, each attack more brazen than the last. Grocers, barbers, families in their homes. No one was safe. The city held its breath, bracing for the next strike. March 13th, 1919. A chilling letter arrived at the New Orleans Times-Picayune. It was from the Axeman himself. In a voice dripping with arrogance and menace, he taunted the city. He claimed responsibility for the murders. But what sent chills down the spines of every reader was his bizarre proclamation. He would spare those who played jazz music in their homes. He claimed to be a demon from hell with a love for jazz. Fear turned into a strange fascination. Could the devil himself be walking the streets of New Orleans? The city responded with a defiant roar. Jazz, the very music that pulsed through the veins of New Orleans, became a symbol of resistance. Every bar, every home, every street corner was filled with the sounds of trumpets and saxophones. The night air vibrated with a defiant energy. The Axeman's request had backfired. He had inadvertently united the city in a way he could never have imagined. The music, once a source of joy, now served as a shield against the darkness. The city waited, holding its breath. Would the music be enough to appease the Axeman's bloodlust? As quickly as it began, the terror subsided. The Axeman, as if conjured from a nightmare, vanished into the shadows. Months turned into years. The city, scarred but unbroken, slowly began to heal. But the Axeman's crimes left an indelible mark. His identity remained a mystery. Was he a real demon, as he claimed, or a madman driven by a thirst for blood? The police investigation, despite numerous leads and suspects, never yielded any answers. The Axeman became a ghost story, whispered in hushed tones. A reminder that even in the most vibrant cities, darkness can lurk around every corner. The Axeman of New Orleans remains an unsolved mystery. His reign of terror, which spanned from May 1918 to October 1919, left the city in a state of perpetual fear. The Axeman's victims were often attacked in their own homes, a place where they should have felt safest. The brutality of his crimes and the randomness of his attacks made him a figure of both dread and fascination. His story, a chilling blend of fact and folklore, continues to fascinate and terrify. Newspapers of the time were filled with sensational headlines, each more lurid than the last, as the public hungered for any scrap of information about the elusive killer. The Axeman's letters to the press, taunting the police and the public, only added to the macabre allure of his legend. Did he meet a gruesome end? Some speculate that he fell victim to his own violent tendencies, meeting a fate as brutal as those he inflicted on others. Others believe he may have been caught and quietly disposed of by vigilantes, eager to rid the city of his menace without the need for a public trial. Did he simply move on, seeking new victims? The transient nature of early 20th century America, with its bustling train stations and crowded streets, would have made it easy for him to disappear into the anonymity of another city. Perhaps he continued his spree elsewhere, his crimes unconnected to his New Orleans infamy. Or did the music, the soul of New Orleans, somehow drive him away? The Axeman famously declared in one of his letters that he would spare anyone playing jazz music on a particular night. This bizarre proclamation led to an impromptu citywide jazz festival, a night where the streets were filled with the sounds of defiance and unity. Could it be that the very essence of New Orleans, its vibrant culture and indomitable spirit, proved too much for the Axeman to bear? The questions linger, unanswered whispers in the humid New Orleans night. Each foggy evening, as the gas lamps cast long shadows in the alleyways, one can't help but wonder about the true identity of the Axeman. Was he a deranged local, someone who blended seamlessly into the fabric of the city by day, only to unleash his horrors by night? Or was he an outsider, a transient figure who brought chaos and then vanished without a trace? The Axeman became a chilling reminder that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved. The fear he instilled in the residents of New Orleans was palpable, a collective anxiety that permeated every corner of the city. The police, despite their best efforts, were unable to capture him, and the case eventually went cold, leaving behind a legacy of unanswered questions and lingering dread. And in the heart of the city that never sleeps, his legend lives on. New Orleans, with its rich history and vibrant culture, has a way of holding on to its ghosts. The story of the Axeman is retold in hushed tones, a part of the city's folklore that refuses to fade away. Each generation adds its own layer to the tale, ensuring that the Axeman's shadow remains a part of New Orleans' identity. The music plays on, a defiant act of remembrance, a testament to the city's resilience. Jazz, the lifeblood of New Orleans, continues to fill the streets, a reminder that even in the face of terror, the spirit of the city remains unbroken. The night the Axeman promised to spare those who played jazz has become a symbol of the city's enduring strength and unity. But the shadows of the Axeman's reign still linger, a haunting echo of a time when terror walked the streets of New Orleans. The dark alleyways and dimly lit streets serve as a reminder of the fear that once gripped the city. Though the Axeman may be long gone, his presence is still felt, a ghostly figure that haunts the collective memory of New Orleans. The unanswered questions of his identity and fate continue to captivate and terrify, ensuring that the legend of the Axeman of New Orleans